Hey guys, it's Robin, Artist Island Craft, and welcome to my craft room. This week we are going to do another quick little project that is great for gifts or just to make something for yourself. We're going to make some key fobs. Key fobs are just a piece of fabric. I have batting in mind. With this, I buy the little special key fob hardware. It comes with this little clampy thing and with the key ring. I also make little finger size ones because sometimes people don't want this big thing. I like to have these in my pocket because I can feel this extra bit in my pocket and it's easy to grab. Plus it's great when it's in your purse. This is also another way to make a strap for some of the little handbags and stuff, little project bags. I like to use these little finger ones for those store cards that, you know, like when you go to Winn-Dixie, if you have the card, you get a special discount on stuff. I can go ahead and put all of those special store membership cards on this one ring and just keep this in my purse, and that way I'm not digging through my wallet or anything. They're all right there. I can just flip through it like a deck of cards and then hand it to the cashier. I'm going to show you how to make both sizes. They are both made exactly the same. They're just cutting is a little bit different. So let's clear these out and I'll show you how I make them. If you look online, there are several different ways to make key fobs. Some of them, as I said, use this special metal piece. Other of them just use fabric. Some of them use like a rivet type situation or a snap set thing. When I started doing these several years ago, I bought this big fancy clamp tool. I put a little bit of felt and glued it to the inside here just so you don't want to scratch up this metal bit. It is a very firm metal, but it is also easy to scratch. If you just have regular pliers at home, just put a piece of batting in it or some type of a cloth, a washcloth. You could put a piece of felt in it or whatever you happen to have. And that way it won't mar your finish at all and it'll stay nice and shiny. You can go ahead and let the people you give it to scratch it up. When I was looking on Amazon for this different hardware, if you just Google key fob hardware, you're going to find lots of places to buy it. I picked mine up on Amazon. I previously had bought them all on Etsy. I had the opportunity to pick up this special tool. So I picked that up. But like I said, when I was looking for these recently on Amazon, because I'd used mine all up, I found that they have a new pair of pliers, and it has a tip on it. The part that you're going to use to clamp down on here is about this wide, and it already has a piece of rubber on it. So I thought that was really good, and I think I'm going to pick that up next time, because when I'm using these, I have this big place, and I put it in like this, and you can't really see what you're doing, and there's a lot of room for it to slide around. But if I had just the small pliers, then I can go clamp, and I can see exactly what I'm doing. This is also quite a bit heavy, but I think a guy would really enjoy this because this is one of those vice clamps that they're used to. I believe this is called a duck bill clamp. This one specifically is made by Black Rhino. But yeah, so I think I'm going to go ahead and pick up that other pair of pliers just because the heft on this is quite a bit. Vice clamps are already hefty to begin with, and then you add in the extra metal. But this is what we had to work with today, so I'm going to show you how to use this in case you already have this type of tool. I started out with a piece of fabric that measures 4 by 12. That's nice for an average. I have a medium size hand. My hand fits in there nicely. I have an average size wrist. I believe my wrist might be about 6.5, 7 inches. You can go ahead and make it any size you want. If you want to make them larger for a man, or if you want to make it for anyone who has a larger hand, or if you want to make it smaller for a small child or something, you just go ahead and determine your length by that. Now remember, whatever your length is we're going to be folding it in half so that we have this loop. So whatever you feel that you want your circumference to be. So sometimes I just take out one of these tape measures and I put it on and I say, okay, so if I were to cut it at 12 inches, that would put it right there. Let's see, does that go on and off pretty easy? Okay. And we're also going to have to account for the fact that we have batting in it and stuff like that. So you might want to make it just a little bit larger because we can always trim it down. If you're going to make it for, say your husband has a large hand, then you might want to go ahead and make it a little bit longer. Just look at what the measurement is and then go by that. I don't think I would mind if it was a little bit too large because as this is, it slides on and off anyway. So if you're making them for gifts or a shop, you can make them in a variety of sizes or just go ahead and make all the larger ones. I don't think it's going to bother anyone too much. So I cut mine by 12 inches in length and I went by 4 inches in width. I am using a 1-inch key fob hardware. You have to watch when you're buying them now because they come at 1 inch, 1 1/4. I've seen 1 1/2, 2 inches. I'm using the 1 inch, so my measurements are going to be based on that. If you're going to be using a, if you're going to be using a larger piece of key fob hardware, then you're going to have to change your measurements for that. Most of the tutorials I've seen are pretty standard. They're either 1 inch or 1 1/4. So my fabric is 4 by 12. I'm going to fold it in half, give it a good press. This is just like when we're making our straps for tote bags and such. Then I'm going to bring each piece into the center, give it a nice press, fold it back in half and give it another press. Now what I'm using inside mine, I like mine to be a little bit squishy, so I'm using cotton batting. You can use fusible fleece. That would make it a lot quicker and you wouldn't have to worry about anything shifting. You can go ahead and just press it all down. You can use felt, you can use flannel, you can use fleece, whatever you just happen to have around that is a thin enough material that's not going to make this strap too bulky. My key fob finishes off at 1 inch when it's all folded together like this, so I cut my batting 1 inches. This is a great use for all those offcuts, piece of batting you have when you like trim off a quilt, or any leftovers you have from making different projects. Just open up one of the sides, and you're going to put it in like that, fold it back up. You can put clips or pins on it if you like. Then just like making a purse handle, I'm going to take it over to the sewing machine and I'm going to stitch down. I usually do about 1/8 of an inch. My machine's set at a 2.0 or a 2.4, whichever one you want, and then stitch down the other side. And that'll give you something like this. Now if you like, you can also, if you want, you can go ahead and do more lines of stitching. I went ahead and put 4 on this one. I just did my 1/8 of an inch from there, and then I moved in 1/4 of an inch and did 2 lines that way. When I'm getting ready to press mine, put them in my little key fob, I do like to stitch the end together like this. It just makes it so much easier to hold it. So when you're trying to hold this, and you're trying to hold this, so you have this inside here like this, and then you also have to hold this. It's just easier to have them all together, and I know they're not going to get crooked. They're going to stay nice and straight when I put this in this way, and I'm not going to have one sticking out cattywamper. Now you could also take any of your fancy stitches from your sewing machine, and after you do your little stitches on the side here, you can go ahead and put some type of a little decorative stitch down the center. If you have an embroidery machine, you can put in their name or their sports team or whatever you want to do, happy birthday, anything you want, you can embroider right through the center here. You can do hand embroidering. You don't even need to make this all in one piece of fabric. You can use your little scraps of leftovers and stitch them all together so that your piece just ends up being the size you need. So however I get to a 4 by 12 piece, I can have 7 different fabrics in there if I want. After I've stitched everything down both sides, I'm just going to trim the ends so that they're nice and even. When I put my batting in, as you can see, I like to have it a little bit longer than what I need so it sticks out and I know I have exactly enough. So when I trim it down, I don't have any empty spots in there. The batting goes all the way to both ends. And we're just going to fold it in half, and I would take it to the sewing machine and stitch down here. I stitch just barely. As you can see, the stitching line is right there, so I just do a little close to the end, about 1/8 of an inch away, because you want to make sure that when you put it in here, I don't want to have that stitching coming across showing. Now when I make mine, I make them in bulk. I go ahead and use just one thread. Today I'm using a white thread, and I stitch them all in that same thread so I don't have to constantly change. You can have your thread match, but I feel that because of the way it is with the quilt batting inside, it ends up getting a little bit poofy. And as you're using it, let me get you mine that I use all the time to see what it looks like. Here is mine. I made this probably about a year ago. Everything starts to kind of poof up around the edge and the stitching just sinks down in, so you don't really notice anything like that. This one it's looking a little worn and needs to be washed. You can hand wash these to get them clean, or you can just go ahead and make a new one. That's the one I have. Now, when I purchased these off of Amazon, mine came with the keychain, the key ring already attached. That's the first time that's ever happened to me. I always have them separated, and I find that I prefer to have it separated because when the little ringy's still on and you have this in here, then you're going to have that ring in there also. And what if you get it stuck this way and then you clamp it down? So I find it easier just to go ahead and take that little ring off. This is actually what Rob used to do for me. After I'd make all my key fobs, he'd go ahead and put all the rings on for me. Because after a while, I tend to break my thumbnail and stuff on them. These weren't too bad. The ones from back in the day seem to be a bit stronger of a key ring. This is the one that came with them when I bought them several years ago. And this is what's coming in with them now. So like everything else, things just seem to change up. These are much sturdier, but this is going to be perfectly fine for what we're using it for. This is a sturdy enough key ring. It's not one of those flexible ones that bend or anything. These have teeth back here that will hold the fabric. So once you put it in and you clamp it, those teeth are going to go ahead and get into your fabric and clamp it down tight and hold it so that it does not come out. You can pre-close this a little bit if you like. I would probably do that if I had separate pliers, the smaller ones. But for these, I think I'm just going to go ahead and just hold it and not clamp it too much. So make sure your fabric is in there on both sides and everything is nicely lined up. If you had the regular pliers, you would just go ahead and clamp here, and then you'd be all set. For these guys, as you see, like I said, it takes a little bit to hold these, so if you have any problems with your hands, I don't think this would be a good idea for you. It'd be better to have the regular pliers. But I do find that I can put them on the table and press down like this, so it's not as much of my hand doing the work than it is the pressure on the table. But you see, I'm just going to go ahead and put it in there. I'm still holding this and I'm running it across the bottom and let the pliers hold it also, so that I can just slowly, I can let go because I don't want my finger stuck in there, and clamp it down. Then I check and see, okay, I got a little bit of space in here still. I'm going to go ahead and take it back. With these, sometimes you've got to tighten up the back end there a little bit. Put it to the end and give it a second clamp. See all this extra, that's why I'm thinking I'm going to go ahead and try those other pliers to see if they would work a little bit better and not be as much strain on my hand. But you do what you have with the tools you have on hand, correct? And there you go, your finished key fob. Then you just have to put your little ring back on. I think these would make great gifts for like offices and teachers. People that you don't know, maybe you don't know them as well, so buying a personal gift, it may not be what you want to do. Sometimes we just like to have, I've heard people that have like Christmas parties and they'll just put little gifts in like a bowl, so when their friends leave, they can go ahead and grab a little gift on their way out, whether they're wrapped or unwrapped. So these would be nice sitting in a glass bowl or a nice wooden bowl by your front door, so as your friends come and go, if they want a little gift, they can take a little Christmas gift with them. They said they make really good teacher's gifts. This would also be good if you have like a coach. You could use your team or your school's fabric or something, colors of it. Like if your school's colors are red and blue, then you can go ahead and have just plain red and blue fabric. So I think these are a fun way to make quick little gifts for all your friends and family. So if you have any questions, go ahead and leave it down below. And thank you for hanging out with me in the craft room. I'll see you guys later. Bye.